Look, I'm not proud of it, and sitting at 106th out of 109th is basically just rock bottom, but I had to get the first PRS match out of the way. If you clicked on this video hoping to learn how to win these matches, I have really bad news for you. But if you clicked on this video because you are either planning to or hoping to shoot a PRS match at some point in the future, I hope this video encourages you and equips you to have a good first experience. So thank you, I'm glad you're here. And as per usual, we will critique some stages together, and then we'll go over some kit and some tips towards the end of the video. And in an effort to be a good steward of your time, you can use the chapters down below to skip to the part of the video that you actually want to watch. So I just wrapped up my first PRS match out at the Cameo Shooting and Education Complex out in Grand Junction, Colorado, and it did not disappoint. It was beautiful, it was hot, and it was windy, and I felt tested in a way that I haven't felt since I took an exam in college for a class that I did not attend once that semester. The name of the game for PRS is basically just being good at everything. Wind reading, positional shooting, managing your equipment, knowing your dope, and just being a flat out good shooter, all while being on a 2-minute clock. You'll see for yourself in just a minute that I really didn't do any of those things very well, but we'll play some videos and I'll let you be the judge. So with that being said, I have 2 stages lined up for you to watch. The first stage that I'm gonna show you is from stage number 2. This is called Pigs on the Hill. This is the first stage we shot on the second day of competition, and this is the pre. Shooter will start with all gear in hand, magazine in, and bolt back. On the command, the shooter will move to the first position and engage the pig targets from near to far with 2 shots at the first target and then 1 shot at each of the next 4 targets. The shooter will then move to the second position and re-engage the targets from near to far with 1 round on the first 4 targets and then 2 shots at the 5th target. Positions are prone, beside the rock, and on top of the rock. You won't really be able to see the targets, but that's okay. You'll see the video and me shooting, and that will be hopefully good enough. Thanks. I'm like, that look means I forgot.
What a nice RO.
For real. All right.
All right. Shooter ready.
Ready.
Stand by.
Thanks for the bipod. Holy shit. And there's time.
Please.
Nice run, dude.
Thanks. Okay.
All right. I see clear. Go ahead and flag that for me.
Yes, sir. Great. If you are curious, the targets on this stage are at 284, 386, 446, 593, and 700. So I missed the shot on the 700, but we'll get into that here in just a second. The first point I want to make is just have a stage plan. Walking into day number 2, one of the things I wanted to focus on was taking less shots, but taking more intentional shots. So on this stage, there was 2 positions. There was the prone next to the rock, and then there was the second position up on top of the rock. I knew the rock was going to be a tough spot for me to get a good position on, and since the points were evenly split between position 1 and position 2, I figured I would try to make as many good hits as I could in a position I felt more comfortable with in the prone, and try and get 6 out of 6 shots from the prone position. And then if If I got to the rock, then awesome. I barely even made it up to the rock before the time ran out, and I am glad though, because I still got 5 out of 6 hits on the lower position instead of just rushing through all the way to the finish and trying to get all the shots off, and then having a less comfortable position or a less stable position, and then probably missing more shots than I hit. The lesson here is just identify your strengths and your weaknesses and figure out what part of the stage or what part of the props you're gonna be able to use in your favor as much as you're able. This is actually something I kind of struggle with throughout the competition. It's really easy to watch all these guys who are really practiced, kind of get up there, get into a position really easily, make it look super stable, and then think to myself, yeah, I can totally do that. I know for a fact that I lost a ton of points across the weekend from trying a front supported bag position without any rear support. It's just not a position I've practiced a bunch, and it showed. And I lost a lot of points trying that, even though a lot of the guys were doing that and successful with it. The second point I want to make from this video in particular is I missed that last shot on that first string from prone because of wind ultimately, and what that can tell me is I essentially just wasn't using the hits on the closer distances to give myself an idea of where that bullet was going to go the further and further out it went. To clarify what I mean by that, you can actually watch the plate swing in certain directions when you hit it, and if you're watching your impacts hit and you can see that plate swing from the left edge first to the right edge first, you can use that as information to know, okay, I might need to hold 2 or 3 tenths more on a 700-yard shot as opposed to a 600 because I kind of clipped the right edge of that target, and so I know I got to make a little bit more of an adjustment to stay on the target. There's obviously more to that stage, more things I could have improved upon for sure, but those are the 2 things I wanted to hit, and you can obviously watch that back and pick it apart if you want, and please feel free to do so. But let's get into the second video I have for you. This is stage number 3. Okay, stage number 3. This is called Bass Pro Shops Fish Out of Water. Shooter will start with all gear in hand, magazine, and bolt back. On the command, the shooter will take a position on the dock post of your choice and engage the first fish target with 2 rounds, then move to the next post of your choice and engage the second fish target with 2 rounds. Continue this process until all targets are engaged. Engage targets near to far. All 5 posts must be used. Okay, target distances. The first fish is at 344 yards, second 494, third 544, fourth 583, 5, 600 yards. Let's watch the video from this stage and see what happens. I apologize that the videos aren't consistently horizontal. I'm just thankful these guys were willing to jump in and film for me. These days consist of a lot of teamwork, whether that's picking up brass, being on glass, or just being available to help and be ready for your stage. So everybody usually has a role to play throughout the day, and I'm thankful these guys were willing to step away and film. So you're gonna have to deal with it. Should have undone my flip caps during the load and make ready part because that's what it is for, but whatever. I didn't plan on getting this far. And there we go. So I approached this stage very similar to how I approached the first one, which is I cared more about wanting to have good quality hits or good quality shots as opposed to getting through all of my shots and having less quality hits. So quality over quantity, and I think I did okay with that. And so my idea was I wanted to pick the positions I felt like I would be best suited in to make good hits and just focus on getting through those. And then you can kind of hear me say at the end of the video, I didn't plan on getting this far because I didn't, and the bag dropped and I was kind of screwed at that point anyway. Like I already mentioned, I really struggled over the course of the weekend with the front bag supported position. And so when I looked at this particular stage, I was like, okay, I've got these posts, I've got tons of room behind me, nothing kind of really impeding my body position behind me. So let's do tripod rear. I had plenty of space to implement it. I had pretty short distances from post to post. And so my idea was I'm gonna pick the kind of the least comfortable position first and then work my way into a more comfortable position as the stage went on. So I picked that lower one, then I went to the middle one, then I went to the higher one, and I moved everything over from post to post. And you know, I still fumbled around a little bit. Wasn't really fluid, took a little while to kind of get that good solid tripod rear position. But once I got into the position, I felt so stable. I didn't really have any reticle movement compared to what I was experiencing the day before. I was having like almost a target width of left and right shift because I just couldn't hold the gun steady enough. So having tripod rear helped me keep the reticle on the target the entire time. And so I felt a lot more confident. I ended up making more hits that way. And even though I missed the second shot on the second post, I still got 5 out of the 6 hits that I was hoping to get on that stage. And so I'm glad it worked out the way that it did. And the point I'm making with this is get yourself into positions that you're comfortable with so that you give yourself the best chance on getting hits. The room for improvement here is positional shooting ultimately. There were 17 stages and only 2 of them could be shot from the prone. And one of those stages you could shoot from the prone, you needed like a double pull or a triple pull to be able to do that. Nearly everything required the use of a prop or a specific place to shoot from to put you in a weird or stressed out position. Having never really trained in anything outside of a bench or prone or locked into a tripod, this really put a damper on my ability to feel confident behind the rifle. The positional shooting was something that I did struggle with, and it's just hard to do it for the first time if you've never practiced it before. The most common position that I saw people use across kind of all the different stages we shot was that front bag supported position. And so if I could recommend anything that if you're gonna practice, I would practice that position. That, and then secondarily, practice tripod rear, because if you can utilize that, I wish I would have utilized it more ultimately to have a little bit better shooting position and maybe make a couple more hits overall. So that's it for the stages I have to show you. Like I said, most of them were worse than those ones, and maybe at some point I'll go over those as well if there's some interest for that. I do want to jump in and talk about the rifle a little bit and talk about some gear things as well, so that if you are in a similar position, you can learn from my mistakes. Ultimately, there are just a few things that I would maybe have changed if I had the opportunity to redo this whole thing and get a fresh try at a PRS match. So hopefully you will have these things and be a little bit better equipped than I was. So let's pull this crap away, get the rifle down, and let's talk about that. Oh, the old NATO potato. Okay, this is the rifle I shot. It's the same setup basically that I took to NRL Hunter. So the first thing I want to highlight that I did change, if you watch that video, is I got some scope caps. It was super dusty out there, and the first day, I'm not kidding you, I had my sunshade on from the optic and I was stuffing a rag in front of it just to try and protect it from all the dust. So I stopped by Bass Pro Shops on the way home and picked up some scope caps, and it did make quite a bit of difference. So silly little thing, but hey, they work. The next big thing about this is I shot 308. And if you haven't already deduced, that was a pretty bad idea. Gets pushed around a lot. I've got a short barrel, wasn't going very fast. So if I could recommend anything, get like a 6.5 at least. I think you'd be better suited with that. I'm glad I had the experience of shooting 308, but I kind of wish now that I had swapped, and I will be making the swap here pretty soon. So that's the first thing. Get some 6.5 and do it with that. As far as some other things about the rifle itself, the suppressor actually you just don't really need. A lot of guys, most guys use brakes. So to be totally honest with you, I don't like shooting bolt guns unsuppressed because it just hurts my head. It's super concussive and I don't love it. So I like the suppressor because it is just a more enjoyable experience for me. So I'm gonna continue shooting with that just because I like it. This rifle is only 15.5 pounds. If you saw my NRL Hunter video, it is so that it can make weight for that competition. And in PRS, there is no such weight restriction. And so this is a little light for PRS. And at the end of the day, I think that's okay. You can still do a lot. You can still be effective with it. But if you are in a position where you're like, I'm looking to do my first match, the one tip I'd have for you, outside of just make your rifle as heavy as possible, is make your rifle as well balanced as possible. That front bag position that I talked about earlier really benefits from having a well-balanced rifle. So what I mean by well-balanced is this. Where you're gonna wanna balance a bag is gonna be kind of right in front of your mag well. And if I take my rifle and kind of put it in that position, and I'm still a little far forward because you can see right here that I'm kind of intersecting with my mag well. If I let go of the rifle, it's gonna fall and hit the table here. So what that means is ultimately I've got way more weight in the back of the rifle than I do the front. A lot of guys mitigate that by putting these really big heavy barrels in, and that's great. Don't have that. And so I have a back heavy or a stock heavy rifle. All that translates to in a competition sense is when you're in a position like this where you're using this front rest as a support for your rifle, is you're going to have to hold the back of the rifle in the position that you want it to be. And I think that's where a lot of my struggles came from, was having to muscle this where I needed it to be, instead of the rifle being well balanced enough that it wanted to stay flat on the bag without any user input from your shoulder. So that would be kind of one of the big tips I'd recommend, is balance your rifle well before you start adding a bunch of weight to it. You can do that by putting some weights in the front, a certain weight barrel, or even removing, like me, some of the weights I have in the back to help make the rifle heavier. And that would have made this a little bit more well balanced. So this is a bag that my buddy let me borrow. Tip from the NRL Hunter video: make friends, they will lend you stuff. So thanks, Ryan, I appreciate you. Yeah, that's kind of the rifle I brought. The other little note I have for you when it comes to rifle stuff is you will find positions, like I mentioned before, in the prone where you're going to need a double or triple pull. And at least at the match I was at, they had some like match supplied double pulls and triple pulls, because those things are like $1,000 for just a bipod for your rifle. So they supplied some, but if not, some people have them. And in the first video you watched, the stage number 2 video, I was borrowing an MDT bipod from a guy named Mark on my squad. So thanks, Mark, for that as well. I appreciate that. So I have an Atlas bipod. It did work most of the time. I actually left it on sometimes for some of that weight. I can move it out to this spigot. And so I was using that to help balance the rifle out more than I was actually using the bipod itself. Yeah, I mean, this rifle did everything I asked it to. Can't say that I recommend shooting a 15-pound 308 in your first PRS match. You can't maybe avoid that if that's what you got. So if that is what you have, do what I did, go out there and shoot it and have a good time. You will learn a lot regardless of the rifle you bring. So let's get this back up in there, and then I have one more little tip that I want to share. And that last tip is have some way to manage your dope. And this can be your ballistic solver chart that you've created. It can be a little card that attaches kind of to part of the rifle, but however you do that, pick a way to manage your dope, and then figure out kind of a flow for how you're gonna write stuff on here. This is from Sun and Shadow, this arm board. You can use this for all sorts of stuff. So what I chose to do for PRS is have a blank front sheet, and you can see right there, hopefully, nice. And then I had inside, I had a secondary sheet I could write some stuff, and then I had my dope card at the top there. And so my flow for the match was, in my kind of pre-stage planning, I would have my matchbook, because the matchbook gives you all the distances. And then I would be cross-referencing my dope with the distances and where the targets were located on the stage. And then I would draw kind of just a small diagram with my holds to show me where the targets are and in what order I need to shoot them. And so you can see right here, right, I had my targets going kind of up to the top of the thing. It was going from left to right, because that's the order in which we shot the targets. And then they were going near to far as well. So they might not always end up just like this, but the reason I did this was so that I could see, like, okay, my first target is gonna be close and right, and that's gonna be a 3.7 mil hold. And then my second target is going to be a little bit farther to the left and a little bit above the first target with another 3.7 mil hold. And then my last target is going to be the farthest left and the farthest away, so a 4.4 mil hold. And so this was just an easy way for me to kind of visualize where the targets were located and what I needed to put into my gun for each target. This just takes a 3x5 postcard thing. And so you can like make a card really easily, like on Excel or whatever, to show you kind of whatever maybe diagram you want to draw or whatever columns you want to have for data. I just like the blank one, and I like having my dope inside. So I did all of my data and my work before the stage started. And then when the stage started, I could just close this. I didn't need to reference the dope at that point because I had it all written down. And then when this was on my arm, I literally just looked straight down at this and I had the data that I needed ready to go. So there are tons of ways people do that. Just find some way to do that and figure out what works best for you. And it is also something that you can change throughout the day. So a lot of guys wrote down some notes for themselves on their match booklets. And I ended up just writing notes from the stage and how that went. So like the notes I wrote for stage 2 and 3, the ones you saw the video for, was prone, good, because I felt good in the prone position. And then on stage 3, I wrote tripod rear is great. And on stage 4, I wrote front only, not good. There's definitely tons of ways to manage your data, to manage your information, but definitely use your matchbook, keep track of it. It will give you all the information you need, exactly how to shoot the stage, and then have some implementation of a data holder in some regard. So that is what I have for you as far as tips. If you are seriously considering trying your hand at a PRS match or anything else really in life, I want to leave you with one piece of information. So if you take anything away from this video, take this thing away. Growth begins at the end of your comfort zone. And I didn't come up with that quote. It's a Tony Robbins quote, but it's something that has just really resonated with me the past couple months of my life. And it's kind of why I have wanted to just kind of dive headfirst into these competitions and doing YouTube and all those things. And it couldn't be more true. There's no amount of YouTube videos or advice or conversations or blogs on the internet that is gonna effectively replace the experience you get when you go out there for yourself and try it. So I can't encourage you enough that the best thing you can do for your journey as a PRS shooter or anything else you want to do is getting out there and taking the first step. You will learn so much more than you ever thought possible, and you will have a good time while you're doing it. If I can do it, I know for a fact that you most certainly can do it. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you learned something, and I hope ultimately that you have the courage to go out there and try this for yourself. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.